There's always been a deep shared history on the East Coast in particular that goes back generations and generations. Like being Afro-Indigenous is not a new thing. Most people on the East Coast who are Afro-Indigenous, they've been Afro-Indigenous for several generations, if not hundreds and hundreds of years.
My favorite MCs in the whole world. Her name is Mumu Fresh, and she's an Afro-Indigenous singer, MC, and songwriter who Black Thought of the Roots has called a quadruple threat, and he is not lying. The Grammy-nominated powerhouse has used her platform to uplift both Black and Native lives. For instance, performing on BET in the memory of Sandra Bland at Black Girls Rock, and joining Indigenous water protectors at the Standing Rock protests in North Dakota. The sister walk it like she talk it. She's joining me now to talk more about her art and her activism as somebody who lives at the intersection of Black and Native identities. It's the incredible Mumu Fresh here at Black News tonight. My sister, so good to see you.
Oh my God, so good to be seen. And thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure.
Of course, of course. Speaking from your own lived experience, what is something that Black people who are not Native should know about the experiences of Indigenous people in this country?
Black people who don't have shared Native experience should know that we are more similar than we are different. We definitely share the experience of being disenfranchised by colonial power, and some of the ramifications of that disenfranchisement looks like drug abuse, looks like alcoholism. It looks like living in a food desert. There's a lot of the same things that plague Black communities and plague ghettos, also plague reservations. Um, and if you go further back, being an Indigenous person, and I also want to include Black Americans who are from the South, right? And who before then, some of whom were from Africa, our connectedness to the land is very, very similar. You know, there are a lot of traditions that I'm sure if you have a grandmother from the South, that she'll tell you traditions that are steeped in connectedness to the earth, to animals, to God, to ancestors, those sorts of things. There actually are a lot of similarities between Indigenous cultures and, Black American cultures.
For sure, and part of bridging that divide is also the reverse, right? Like I often wonder also what can Native populations stand to learn about the experiences of Black people here in America?
I mean, the same thing. I think a lot of times if you live in an area where you don't interact with many African Americans and you only have the media to give you examples of what Black people are like, it can be mostly negative. You know, the media mostly has a negative portrayal of Black people. And, a lot of my friends who are hip hop artists, who are Native hip hop artists, they have a better understanding because they tour and they interact more with Black people and can really see the diversity of the culture and the experience of Black people. But when you don't, there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of miseducation, and I think having to do with European influence. It just does. A lot of anti-Blackness comes from the impact and influence of the colonial settler mentality.
Facts.
And it's divisive. It is everywhere in the world that the colonial power goes, they're divisive and they're anti-Black, so it's I think it's important for us to just, again, to take the time to get to know people, to understand people's lived experience, because it really is more similarities. There are more similarities than there are differences. And we have a common struggle. We have a common experience. We've been disenfranchised in the same ways, and we can use some of the same steps to regain power, both political, economic, and cultural, because a big part of what Native people went through, as well as Black people, is cultural genocide. You can, before you break a people, you have to strip their identity from them. And that's what happened for all of us. Our language was taken for Native people and Black people. Our God was taken, our cultural practices, our clothing. And those things leave a person empty. They leave a person lost and disconnected from their cultural lineage and from their purpose. So those same tactics were used on both of us, that we will forget who we were and why we are here, and our rightful place belonging to this land as protectors of this land.
Absolutely. Talk to me about, we talking about culture and cultural power. Your music, your artistry is one of the things that helps connect all of us. You have an amazing new album out. It's called Vintage Babies 2, Queen of Culture. Talk to me about that project.
Man, I'm so proud of this project. One of the first songs we released with D Smoke called North Star. Again, you will see the unity of Afro-Indigenous culture, right? One of the first stops on the Underground Railroad that's not talked about often, especially on the East Coast, was Native villages. You know, when Nat Turner was hiding, he was hiding with the Nottoway before they caught him, before he gave himself, you know, he surrendered. So there's always been a deep shared history on the East Coast in particular that goes back generations and generations. Like being Afro-Indigenous is not a new thing. Most people on the East Coast who are Afro-Indigenous, they've been Afro-Indigenous for several generations, if not hundreds and hundreds of years. So I really want to show that shared experience. Queen of Culture, I mean, it's a blend of all of my experiences from jazz to hip hop, like the lineage and the culture of Black music. Like it takes you on a journey. That's how I understand music. I learned field hollers and Native American songs and African songs and the blues and jazz and hip hop. That's how I learned music. Before I ever got to sing R&B, my mother made me learn the whole lineage of music and of Black music in America and the history that was associated with it. And when you hear like music of the Seminole, right, who have a very strong Afro-Indigenous influence, you hear the moaning and the wailing and the healing that's present in that music, the tonal calling. It connects you with something bigger than you. And that's what I really wanted to bring forward with this project, where there'll be times in the album where you'll just hear sounds, calls, moans, wails, and we'll tell stories. We're talking about reparations, and we're talking about, you know, I connecting back with the divine. We're talking about our purpose and our place. We're talking about reconnection with the land and all of those different things. And we're talking about, you know, fun stuff too. We're talking about love and partying and everything, the full scope of our experience here, like how we came to be, and just unapologetically living in our authenticity, you know, not waiting for somebody to sanction your you-ness. but just here I am.
I
Here
love
I
the way
am
you put
in the
that.
full expression.
I love that. And you in the full expression is dope, is beautiful, is powerful, it's original, and it touches our spirits, it touches our souls. You're just such an incredible artist, and we're so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me on Black News Tonight.
You can't fake this long, partner.